The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall of those knuckleheads of liberty podcasters, daring to voice opinions outside the mainstream of accepted thought. Listen if you dare. It's angry, it's funny, it's even sometimes sad, but it's always based on freedom and justice, as you will see. Here's our host, Jason McPhee.
Welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty. We're coming at you with a special edition where we're going to talk a little bit about the upcoming California Libertarian Party Convention. So this is sort of a bonus show for us. It's an extra one this week that we're doing. And so before we get into that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our upper right-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper left-hand corner today, we have sort of a special guest today. I mean, he's our invisible hand, so he's always there in all of our shows. You just don't see him all the time, but you're seeing him today. And he's sort of a special guest, and that's James Just, and he is the Sacramento County Libertarian Party chair. So, and we will be talking to him today to learn a little bit more about the party mechanics and what goes on in a convention, and maybe what some of the needs are of the Libertarian Party in California. So James, maybe we could get your visible hand today to give us the web page here. And so here is the web page for the 2023 Libertarian Party convention. It is going to be here in Sacramento this year, and it is going to be down near Old Sacramento. For those of you familiar with Sacramento. And it is going to involve party business stuff like, figuring out who the officers are, and other party business issues that maybe James will help us get through. And of course, I'll have a few special guests out there, and I'll scroll down to that. It looks like we're going to have Maj Tour, Spike Cohen, Larry Sharp, Lou Perez, Connor Boyack, that's the Tuttle Twins guy, and Joe Quirk, C. Stedding. Looks like Tasha Cohen. I think that's Spike Cohen's wife, I think. Yes, yeah. And then we got Mike Sertic, Hannah Henriksen, and Emily Tilford. So those will be the special speakers we have this time at the convention. Just in case they have links here to schedules of what's going on, so you can check out more information on that yourself. So James, you want to tell us a little bit about kind of how the Libertarian Party convention goes here in California, and kind of what the normal flow of business is, and what gets done or doesn't get done, as the case may be?
Well, Libertarian conventions of their own sort are kind of a organized chaos. So what happens at a convention is essentially the delegates gather. But, people who are delegates, the voters of California, those who choose to go, so they generally are the more activisty crowd, they show up and they choose their party leaders. In the odd number of years, they choose the chair, the officers, the chair, the vice chair, secretary, treasurer, and then fill any open seats. And then on the even number of years, they fill at-large positions. This year it's
what is an at-large position? Like what?
It's an at-large position. They don't have clearly defined roles until after they represent at large. They are a voting member of the executive committee, the central committee. We're going to confuse you with names, so understand there's a bunch of different names and it confuses everybody. And I'm going to get it wrong, so I'll tell you this. Everybody is part of the central committee. If you pay your dues, you're part of the central committee. And so you can go to the convention and be a delegate. You have the governing board, so to speak, the executive committee. The executive committee, that's right, it's the executive committee gets elected. You have the chair, the vice chair, I forget how many, secretary, 6 or 7 various at-larges. The at-larges have an ill-defined role, which is part of the problem. At-larges come in, they say, this is what I want to do. And then whether they participate as in the executive committee as a team member or not is entirely dependent upon them. They don't have a defined role. It's not like they're saying this at-large position is an assistant to the treasurer. This at-large position is an assistant to the vice chair. This at-large person runs this committee, right? They don't actually do that until after it's formed. And then it's really dependent on, so that's kind of part of a problem, but it's structural issues. And that's not actually what Jason was getting at the moment. So parties, you gather together and you make decisions, right? It's when the body politic makes decisions, picks the leaders and makes decisions. They decide what the new bylaws might be, if we have a party platform or not, and those kinds of business decisions that average people want nothing to do with. Quite frankly, most of us don't want anything to do with it, but it's work that has to get done. So.
Well, so then if the work have to get done, then obviously if we are having problems within California, we need new leadership. And is that what you're saying?
That's up to delegates. Yeah. That's not what, my personal opinion is our culture is broken. We can put new leadership in there as much as we want.
When you say our culture, you saying the libertarian culture or the American culture? Which one are you talking about?
The libertarian culture, the Libertarian Party culture. We're just talking about the Libertarian Party. Yeah. Yes, the American culture is broken, but we're only focused on, we're focused here on our little party.
Well, ultimately, we're talking about California here. And so what we're really talking about is the California culture. At least from my perspective, there's some things that are broken about it. And there's some things that hopefully the libertarians want to change about that. And let me show you a little bit, you guys, with some slides about some of how California is doing with respect to liberty. So here is this the Cato map that we show all the time on the show. And this is showing essentially how California is doing with respect to liberty. And so essentially California ranks currently 48th out of 50 states for liberty. And we talk about this when we have guests from other states on the show who are in the Libertarian Party in those places, so that we can kind of understand a little bit more about what's going on. And if we look at that breakdown, what Cato is saying is that, personal freedoms were kind of average. Some things were better than on and some things were worse on. But fiscally and regulatory wise, oh my God, it's a disaster. I mean, they want to control your life every way to Sunday. And it seems like there's, just no way out of it. We're one of the highest tax states in the nation as well. And then if you look at the politics of the state, pretty much all of the state level office holders are Democrats. They control the state legislature by a wide margin, essentially veto proof. And as far as our national office holders, most of them are Democrats. The 2 Democrat senators and majority of representatives are also Democrats. And of course, we have one of the biggest contingents that head to Congress because we have such a large population. But as we start to look at how this plays out, I mean, the homeless crisis, I mean, we've all seen that. It's front and center to anybody who lives here. It's terrible. And this is an article from Newsweek from just a couple months ago that's talking about it. And this is a reality for anybody who lives here in California, in the big cities. We see this kind of stuff all the time. Downtown smell like pee. I mean, it's just, it's about the way it goes. And this is a thing from HUD talking about homelessness. And of course, it has California in the rankings right up there at the top with, the highest rates of homelessness, the highest population of homelessness, and lots of resources to try and address it and not fixing the problem. So we got that going for us. Then we're heading into a $24 billion deficit right over the horizon here, coming out of all of this craziness of having the Democrats running everything and Gavin Newsom in control. And of course, that's causing people to flee in droves, and, U-Hauls mainly just going one way out of the state. And this article is also just a couple months old. So, what are the libertarians, James? What do they want to do about it here in California? I mean, or what are they trying to do about it?
Well, that's
that's the question of the day. Yes.
Well, that's an interesting question, because first, let's be clear. There's a lot of smart, hardworking people doing a lot of hard work, right? Working insanely hard, spending a lot of time, money, energy, emotional investment. So we're not. I'm not going to. When I'm going to complain here, I'm not going to complain about the effort these people are putting in because they're working hard, but the party structure has failed. The party culture and the party structure has failed. Those two things run hand in hand. And so essentially, when I say, what are they doing? This is as much as me looking in the mirror, not enough, right? I'm chairing here for LPSAC. We're not doing enough. And I can sit here and I can blame the structure and I can blame the culture. And this is all true. And the question is, what do we actually do about it? Because we can't fix this stuff if we are broken ourselves. No one's going to vote for us to fix these things if we are broken ourselves. And so when we ask, what is the Libertarian Party doing about all this stuff that's wrong with California? And these people leaving California is actually a problem for libertarians because we're losing some of our best people. Yeah. Some of our best people are leaving the state. And
James, to me, you are making the case as to why you should run for the state chair. You're making the case, obviously.
I'm making the case for a change in how we view the party. Now, whether it's me or somebody else, I don't know.
I ain't nobody, somebody else. I know about you.
I understand that, Leon, but it's me or somebody else. Could be very great at pointing out problems and even maybe creating ideas for potential solutions, but doesn't mean I'm necessarily the person to implement those things.
Why?
So this is a conversation we have to have.
Why?
Why what?
Why you're not the person to implement these things to try to change the direction of the party, which it badly needs?
Because I am, like everybody else, a flawed individual, Leon.
Oh, we all flawed. I am flawed too.
I know. So what my flaws are, I am not an administrator, right? I'm not. I'm very good at analysts. I'm a very good analyst. I can look at a situation. I can put myself up at like the 50,000 foot view. I can see things. I can express things. I can communicate well with the body politic. The average libertarian voter. I may not communicate so well with the libertarian activist, but the average libertarian voter and the average non-affiliated voter, I communicate quite well with them. But what I need to succeed is a functional team. That's
so
in Sacramento. It's not me that does the work. I don't do any of the administrative work here in Sacramento. I have a team that does that, and that frees me up to go spend 13 days at the state fair. That frees me up to go on and create podcasts and TV shows and do all the outreach, that type of outreach that I do. And if I go in, and my job is to, if I run or if I accept a nomination and if I happen to get elected, what is actually my job? Is it my job is to be the administrator, or is it my job to fix the culture? Now, granted, if they elect me, then it would be my job to fix the culture, but they also have to elect a team that can help me. They need to elect someone who's willing to be an executive assistant. They would need to make sure they have a treasurer who knows what the hell they're doing. You need a secretary who takes great notes, because I don't take notes at all. You need
James,
lawyers who are willing to be active and help fill these roles, right? These are the things that have to happen in order for us to succeed, regardless of whether it's me or not. Right?
James. And I'm sorry, Tim, you were going to say something. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Tim,
James answered part of the question because he's talking about a team and he named some of the qualities of his team. But I was wondering what type of personality or what type of person would be a better administrator? Perhaps somebody like Leon, maybe.
No, whoa. This is not about Leon running, eh? This is about James.
I see. You can point the finger of "you better do it" to James, but you can't look at yourself in the mirror. Is that what you're saying?
I think somebody's sitting on the high dive and they're just not able to jump. They need a little push.
They leave a little push. We're back to James.
Leon here. I am already in a position of leadership, so therefore it makes a little bit more sense. I have already kind of been through the ringer. I am not a parliamentarian, so don't ask me for kind of exact details on how conventions then work. I can give you kind of generics. But we are in a load of trouble. Jason, you had I don't know if it's here or later, but you've got there somewhere on the party graph of party membership, right?
Oh, party membership. I don't think I have that one up anywhere.
I thought I saw it, but anyway, our party membership. You guys can go to the LP California Facebook group.
We had a graph up last Thursday, James, if you remember. Yes.
Yeah, we had a graph, and we're in trouble. Our membership is declining.
Well, wait a minute. Is that the Libertarian Facebook groups graph for the group?
No, it's the graph for the party membership for dues paying members.
Dues paying members in the Libertarian Party. Okay.
And we're declining. Here, let me see. Here, I'll do it. I can actually do this. Wait, guys, I can do this. I have the ability to
share screen on your side.
Yeah, I'm stupid. I'm sitting here going, hey, why can't present?
Would it be partly to blame on the people that are leaving the state? Because I agree with you 100% that the more freedom loving people are gonna naturally leave a state that is becoming more and more tyrannical. And obviously, well, I don't know that California is becoming more tyrannical because they've been down. You just saw that graph that Jason put up. It's just a straight line. It bounces around 48, 50, 49, ninth ranking.
That's Cato's ranking. Yeah, just to
Cato's. Okay, Cato's ranking for freedom in the state of California, but it was a straight line down at the bottom. So it's it's not like it was really free before, and now it's. I mean, you go back far enough, it would have shown this downward trend, and then a level off at the bottom, where it's stuck now at the bottom. So is this it here? Okay, well, let's talk about this.
Yeah. Well, Tim, it's part of the problem. Having libertarians leaving is part of the problem, except in California, they don't clean voter rolls, right? So this is really people, and you can, so registered libertarians aren't very good because like we've got 11,000 registered libertarians here in Sacramento County. I don't know how many of those have left, right?
And you won't know because you mean they don't purge the rolls?
No, they don't purge the rolls. But now this is dues paying members. This is when it's dues paying members. So this is as people allow their party membership to expire, they're just not renewing. And what I'm hearing here on the ground as chair here in Sacramento, people are disillusioned. They're disillusioned, disenfranchised, and unmotivated. And so they're just walking away. And look, I'm facing that same issue myself. It's here. I'm actually going, okay, what am I going to do come April when the LP SAC elections, is it time for me to walk away? Is it time for me to do, so I'm having the same conversation with myself that many in my community are having with me. And what they're telling me is, it's not that the party isn't gaining traction. It's that there's no hope anymore.
Well, James, unless somebody do something, this party is going to die, period. Serious.
Well, only in this state. It's actually doing fairly well in some other places. Just so you know, I don't want to act like the Libertarian Party is just completely going nowhere.
Let's look back at that. Look at that national number, Jason. The national number is they're having the same thing, and they haven't updated the number since December.
Yeah,
the national there's some states that are doing well.
Yeah,
but
true.
But remember, these are lagging indicators. As people start to, it takes a long time for them to cycle out. So you might make a decision today I'm going to stop participating with the party, but your membership may not expire for 6 months.
Yeah.
And so that's not going to be reflected in the number.
This is the strongest argument for new leadership. That is what this is, the strongest argument for new leadership. If we just put back the same people, we'll be doing the same.
That's true. But there has to be
crap. We're going to end up with the same crap.
I understand we need a new type of leadership. But the question is, are the activists who elect the leaders willing to elect politicians and people with a representative mindset to be the leaders?
Well, good things are not cheap, and cheap things are not good. So if you're going to go in there and be a leader and change the direction of this party, you're going to have to fight for certain things. And that's what leaders does.
But Leon, we've had this discussion. I'm a lover, not a fighter. Look, see? Right there at the back.
Me know about all that.
I'm perfectly happy to work. I'm perfectly happy to work.
I know about all that.
I'm perfectly happy to take arrows for a team and pass on credit for the team. I'm perfectly happy to do all of that, but I don't want to captain the Titanic after they hit the iceberg.
You're just talking yourself out of doing what you should obviously be doing.
Well, I know
the iceberg sounds like the iceberg is California. but I do want to bring up one thing just in case people aren't really aware of it, and that's that, for other parties, when you join a Democrat party or Republican party, it's a different structure in those parties. I mean, people join, there's no due in order to join. And quite frankly, so where's the money come from for the party, right? Well, the money comes from special interests, essentially, that control those parties. And that's how they get what they want. And that's how why we all complain that there's so much corruption going on, why you get these leaders who seem like they're only beholden to, Mr. Moneybags behind the corner, whichever party, right? Yeah. But the Libertarian Party is different. We really, because we say specifically that we don't want these big government programs. We don't want, some, puppet master running everything. Then the issue is that that's not very attractive to corporations to donate to, right? I mean, they don't think they're necessarily getting anything out of it. So the Libertarian Party asks people to donate themselves when they would join. In fact, there's a due to join, which is kind of a threshold. And so it's almost like somebody has to really appreciate what the Libertarian Party is fighting for, which is personal liberty, and to get these behemoths of a government off of our shoulders, that there's a value in that. It's it's almost like thinking about the kind of funny money banking system we have versus if we were to go to gold and silver type of banks. So, if you didn't have this inflationary system, you might actually have to pay a banker to hold your money, right? But there's a value in that, and that's why you would. And that's almost like what we're talking about with the Libertarian Party, is that you have to pay for it because it's valuable, I guess. What we're talking about here, and I don't think most people realize that. So there's this hurdle where we have to reach people and convince them about this message of liberty, that it's worth fighting for and it's worth paying for too. So anyway,
that's actually an interesting question, Jason, because we can't provide value, and there's a point where we have to convince people that there's value before we can provide value.
Yeah.
And so how do we do that? I don't know. But what we are doing right now is failing, right? What we're doing is we're spinning our wheels. We're spending a lot of time, money, and energy of activists and volunteers, and we're just not getting anywhere. And part of the problem is this: we've learned how to crawl, and then we're trying to run, but we haven't learned how to stand up and walk. It's like here's what happens when there's a new county. Someone say there's a county that's unaffiliated, and that unaffiliated. So the Northern area coordinator, or somebody recruits someone. Hey, you be chair. Here you're a chair pro tem. You're right. So they give them a chair pro tem. But what they don't do is give them any training. They don't hook them up with a mentor, right? Which was my thing. What I would do, I would find an experienced chair and say, here's a mentor. Maybe they're in LA. Maybe they're in San Diego. Maybe they're 600 miles away. But it's the modern world. We've got Zoom, right? So you hook them up with a mentor and say, okay, here's what you do. Sometimes you just need a friendly shoulder to talk to, or someone to bounce ideas off of, or someone to say, okay, I've got to create bylaws. How do I create bylaws? Well, here's ours. What do I need? I'm a chair, so what's the first member of the team that I need to recruit? You need to recruit a treasurer first. That's your most important role, so find a treasurer first. But no one tells them these things. Because we just don't. We said, wow, here, great, you're a chair. Pat them on the back and send them off. We do no training. None. I mean, yeah, we have groups come in and we'll do quasi-training, but it's not real, actual, fundamental hands-on training. And then we do really stupid-ass things, Leon. We give counties, little small counties like ours, right? We tell them, hey, here's this thing called Robert's Rules of Order. I've got my book. It's like, this book is this freaking thick, and you're supposed to run a small county with 30 members on this big, huge Robert's Rules of Orders thing, right? Rather than giving them a simple platform to run their meetings and to run business off of. Robert's Rules of Orders isn't needed for small county organizations. Hell, it's not needed for California. It's overly complicated. It prevents average people from participating. And you get a board member, you look at this big, thick book. Here, you have to read this and understand it and run your county by it, because that's kind of the foundation that bylaws sit on. It's asinine.
James, the love of life births liberty. And everything I heard you say, just telling me that you should run and fix all those problems you just identified, which I agree with. You should run. You should win and fix those damn problems.
One single person. I need the party to understand that we need fundamental culture change.
Well, that is where that is how it's going to start. That's how it's going to start, by somebody with a vision. That's how it's going to start, bro.
Well, maybe.
One of the things too that you mentioned, James, that we can also see is a little bit different with the Libertarians and the other parties is, for instance, we see this when the presidential candidate is selected each year. The presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate are both selected separately. It's not like they're going in as a team. Now, they certainly can become a team that can work together, but you know what I'm saying? There's not really the coherence of one necessary strategy going forward in the team, right? It's just a bunch of different people coming together. Now that said, even though the other strategies of the left and right may be coherent, they're coherently bad. But so I'm not saying that that we should be necessarily trying to emulate everything they do, but I'm just saying that they are coming together as they're sort of forcing things together. Look, this is the agenda, this is the team, and this is how we're going to try and do things. Whereas it sounds like we may be kind of lacking some of that coherence, I guess.
Well,
so you
the Libertarian Party has a lot of problems with that.
Excuse me 1 second. You saying that the Libertarians will select two people individually, president and vice president, individually, and they work together, whereas like the Democrats and Republicans, the guy who gets the nomination, he will select somebody to run with him. That what you're saying, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what happens in the Libertarian Party is there's a couple of problems with that. One is our primaries are pointless. Your vote means nothing. When you go and vote for a Libertarian in the primary, it's meaningless because the people at the convention, at the national convention, are what matters. So there's no point in having a primary or a caucus or anything like that for the Libertarian Party. It's pointless. And like in California, the Libertarian is chosen before we actually vote. So by the time I get around to vote, the Libertarian Party has, rightly so, already chosen their candidate. That very fact means you've lost the one potential to kind of do outreach and deal with it, because it's meaningless. Why am I going to pay attention as a Libertarian to the primary process if I know it's pointless? If I know that me sitting here in California has no chance of going to a convention back east or something, so what am I going to? So why would I even bother participating? Now, if you created a convention where all dues paying members, regardless of where they are physically at, so I can sit here at home and participate in the vote, okay, then you might be able to create a more robust discussion about who our presidents and vice presidents and candidates should be. But Jason is correct. It's even worse than that, Jason. They run as a team. They do. When they run for the nomination, they run as a team. This wants to be my nine, but they get elected separately. So, so it's actually even worse than what you think. It's not like they run separately. They run as a team, but get elected separately. So like this last time, the teams were divided, right? They picked the vice presidential candidate from one team and the presidential candidate from another, and that was our ticket.
Mm-hmm. Mm. And the other time, the time before that, it was kind of interesting because you had Gary
Johnson and Bill Weld.
Exactly, Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, and Bill Weld was essentially who Gary Johnson wanted, and he almost didn't make it. I think it took like a couple of votes to get him in.
It took a number of rounds and some arm twisting. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, because it turned out Bill Weld was a little bit more on the authoritarian side of things, I guess might be a fair way to say.
He was a Republican for most of his career, actually. His political career.
And both of them were, but they were kind of Republicans in blue states. So it sort of was that compromise that seems to work for some people.
Well, Gary Johnson was always a libertarian thinker. He was a Republican because he had to be politically. But yeah, Bill Weld was always kind of a Republican thinker. But as a vice president, you're a placeholder. It's kind of irrelevant. So that was my feeling on the thing. But you give the presidential candidate the vice VP they want, is my personal feeling. But I could get it. But that's also the problem when you've got a room full of activists. They don't know how to compromise. They don't understand that compromising towards your principles is not the same thing as compromising on your principles. For them, any compromise is on your principles. They don't understand that you can't sail head first into the wind, that you have to tack, right? And when I say that, they think, well, you're complaining about the activists. No, I'm not, because I need activists. I need them. As I'm tacking back and forth, left and right, in the political process, I need the North Star. I need them out there talking. I need them out there telling me, reminding me where I'm aiming for. So
James, what
important role?
What do you see? What do you see? Okay, what do you see as the problem with the activists then? What do you see as the problem?
The problem isn't the activists themselves. They work very hard. They're dedicated. They spend a lot of time and energy. The problem is they don't have a mindset that is representative. What I call them representative mindset. They can't step back out of their own agenda, out of their own worldview. And I don't want them to.
They won't compromise.
Yeah, well, they feel compromising on their principles. And so they're against compromising on their principles, like most of us would be. Rather than, hey, look, we're so far away from my principles, anything that gets me even remotely closer is towards them, and I'm fine with it. Right? Which is what my political leanings, right? I'm a politician at this point. Much as we may hate to think it, I'm a politician. And so as a politician, I have to compromise towards my principles. Sometimes I'm going to go take a step back here so I can take 3 steps over there, and people are going to have to accept it. Right? That's what politics is. But activists don't like that, and for good reasons, right? They've worked very hard and spent a lot of time and energy in their worldview, in their perspective, and they built a party on that. And that's great. But it's time to transition to something else, something that's bigger. And I don't know if I'm the person to do it. I can see it, Leon. I can see the problems, but am I the person to pull it off? I'm not so sure. And I'm also not so sure that there's enough pain yet for the activists to be willing to look in the mirror. The activists who choose leadership or be willing to look in the mirror. Because that's who it is.
Well, James, if we turn around and we elect the same people who doing the same crap, we're going to end up with the same headaches.
No, what we're going to end up happening is, Leon, is more and more people will turn away and walk away, and eventually market forces will interject. Right? Market forces will say the party will either have to adapt or die, and it'll adapt or die, and that's how the market works. Now, maybe we are at that thing. Maybe I am a market force. Maybe I am a response to the market. Maybe this push to get me to run is the beginnings of that market response.
There we go. I think so too. Yes.
It smacks a bit of desperation asking somebody who doesn't want to do the job to do the job. But, maybe there's some benefit to that as well. Maybe, it's a person not having their own personal agenda who is looking out for the good of the culture at large has its advantages. I don't know.
Well, it does seem like one of the big challenges, and you've shown it with your graph as far as how many libertarians are out there. It's a pittance compared to the number of people who identify with the other parties. And ultimately, it seems like, whatever the bureaucratic goals of leadership are, one thing that has to happen is we have to find ways to just reach people to convince them that the current dichotomy, the red-blue dichotomy, just isn't working. I mean, it's we're over about 32 trillion in debt now, which is around $100,000 debt per citizen, and I mean the CBO projects this just heading off into never land. So it seems like all the lights are flashing red, but we don't know enough as a society to recognize that the red light means danger. I mean, we think it means like, Christmas or something. I don't know. But whatever the issue is, we don't seem to understand the warning signs. And I mean, kudos to you in your efforts to at least, be out there working on outreach, because I don't know so much about a lot of the other people who may be in the party organization right now, but certainly you're working with us on this show. You have your own show. You have efforts at public access and other places where you are involved in the outreach. And I think whoever the leader is going to need to be somebody who's involved in outreach, because ultimately we have to start convincing people and turning minds toward the solutions that the libertarians are offering, because the current red-blue dichotomy is just sending us off the cliff.
And that is true, and that is true without a doubt. Is this red-blue fight that is going on and on, that they seem to be merging into one another, except for a few selected people. The Republicans and the Democrats, sometimes it's difficult to identify the difference between them. So until and unless liberty-minded people start to get out there and do a little more to spread the message of liberty and its value, we are doomed, and we will continue to be doomed, hopefully before the end of the Republic. Hopefully we'll be able to turn this thing around. So James, that is my message to you. We have to start somewhere, okay? We have to start somewhere. And I think you are a good start, quite frankly.
A broken machine can't work properly. And so we can't spread a message until we fix the machine.
Well, that is what I'm advocating for you to do, brother. Fix the machine.
We can't fix the machine until the machine realizes it's broken. And here's part of the problem is let's back up. Part of the problem is this phrase we like to toss around. You're not a real libertarian, right? And for a long time, that was kind of an inside joke. We didn't take it all that seriously. But recently, it's changed. And without the representative mindset, there's a question. Who are you representing? If you're in a leadership, if you are a chair of a party, let's say you're chair of Sacramento, who am I representing? Am I representing the 50 people who pay dues? Am I representing the 11,000 people who are registered libertarians? Am I representing the 50,000 people who voted for me in 2020? The people who are willing to vote libertarian? Who am I actually representing? And then the party decides that they're going to represent the widest group of libertarians possible. They're not going to grow. You can't grow past the people you're willing to represent. And so if all you're willing to do is represent the narrowest view of the libertarian philosophy, that's all you're ever going to represent. And maybe you can get it to grow up a percentage here or a percentage there, but we start at 1%.
Yeah.
Well, when you say who you represent, are you talking about in a political sense, like if you got elected as a libertarian?
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
whether it's a libertarian leader,
I would answer that
office holder. I mean, a libertarian we talked to. Who you actually represent?
I would say you represent everybody within your jurisdiction of influence. Everyone, regardless of what their party affiliation is, or whether they paid dues, or whether they voted for you, or anything else. Makes no difference. Once you are elected into that office, you then are the representative of everybody within your jurisdiction, regardless of whatever happened in the past.
Yeah, in the broader political sense, that's true. But what about inside of a political party? Now, Democrats and Republicans have this one figured out, right? They've got this one figured out. They represent anybody who might remotely be willing to talk to them, to vote for them, right? That's who they try to represent.
Okay,
anybody who might remotely be willing to vote for them. That's who they try to represent. They don't do it for crap, but they pretend.
Right. Well, and maybe that should be the attitude of the average libertarian, is that they will represent whoever's be willing to listen to them. And that goes back to what Leon's saying about, spreading the word of liberty. Although I used to try really hard to do that, and I'm not very successful at it. Perhaps because I like to go for the jugular or something. I don't know. I don't know how to win friends and influence people. But
That's good.
sure
That's
now,
you're not a politician, Tim. So congratulations.
I'm not. Yeah, exactly. I know how to call them stupid, but that's about it. So
yeah, I think that is my problem too, Tim. Honestly, I think that's my problem too.
Yeah. But ultimately, though, it does seem like we have to have a coherent message as to who we are, because like a lot of liberty-minded people tend to say, well, we just want smaller government. Well, the Republicans say we just want smaller government too. It doesn't happen with them, but that's what they say. And so unless we can really distinguish ourselves, why are we different than them? What is it that makes a libertarian different than a Republican? And of course, you see, there's certainly some things that we say we're for that Democrats are for as well, but certain civil liberties and some of those seem to be vanishing among the Democrats, like the freedom of speech and other things like that. But as far as what it is that we say we're about, if we don't clearly distinguish ourselves, then they see some of maybe the better Republicans out there, I guess you'd say, like a Rand Paul or Thomas Massey or something like that. Then you say, well, how are you guys different? I mean, why not just vote for them because they've got money and I don't have to pay dues. They have a chance of winning, is what they might say. Just seems like we really need to do a better job of saying who we are to people and making them understand that. That seems to be a bridge that we have to cross.
There was a solution I found for it. At least it worked in my district when I ran back in 2020. Is my stump speech was "Libertarian is love." It packaged it all up. Why am I libertarian? It's because I love my fellow human being. I want them free because I don't know what they need. So I love them by sometimes when you love something, you have to let it go. You have to let it grow, and was my stump speech. And that's the difference between the libertarian philosophy and the Democrats and Republican philosophy, is we actually love people. We want to leave them alone because we love them. We don't want to dictate their lives. We don't think that they're children that need to be lectured to. We assume that they can take care of themselves unless someone asks for help. And then if someone asks for help, we respond or based upon the needs or the ability. And so it also comes with the benefit of being essentially counter-programming. They are so negative, and then we have the opportunity to be entirely positive. It's a negative marketing, right? An oppositional marketing. It creates a stark difference between us and them. But can anybody actually say we feel love in the Libertarian Party right now? I couldn't honestly give that stump speech right now. I couldn't walk out around and give it. I believe it, but I couldn't give it because the party doesn't have love right now. The party at the moment hates itself.
Well, I don't know. I guess that's the whole job of a leader, is to lead them into a new future.
Thank you. You heard, Jim, you're talking yourself. Everything you say just says to me, and look, Tim just said it. Okay? Everything you just said throughout this, how many, we've been here now, 43 minutes. Everything you have said just says to me, we need new leadership. We need someone to identify the problems, which you eloquently have explained. Now you need to get into a position where you can do something about it.
Well, that brings me to a question. It's actually almost 44 minutes. How much longer are we going? The reason I ask is I
want to eat dinner, so we're all good. We'll start to wrap this up. How's that?
Well, because I'm going to have to probably wrap something up, and that includes my dinner, because I don't have a significant other that's making it for me. I have to do it myself, and then I have to get up at 4:30 in the morning. It's already past 8 o'clock, so I'm just wondering how much.
We'll wrap it up here soon for you, Tim.
James, let me help to crystallize things then, to try and bring this into landing. So I guess if you were to be in a leadership position beyond Sacramento here, what would be your top priority? I mean, would your top priority to change the messaging within the party, to try and bring some coherence there, or is it sort of outreach to try and get more members? Is there something structural about how you would change the way the party is currently doing things?
It's actually structural. It would literally change fundamentally how we do things, partly because it's have to in order for it to work, and partly because it's change for the sake of change is sometimes required. My priority, if assuming, would be to get the team to function, would figure out how to get the team to function. Now, look, I can create a kitchen cabinet. I've already had people ask me to create a kitchen cabinet. So I could fundamentally create my own team if I had to. But that would defeat the whole freaking purpose. So my actual goal would be to create this executive committee to function as a team, to make the vice chair, to create either the vice chair or another at-large as an executive assistant to the chair, right? You create maybe even two, maybe even both the vice chair and a at-large as an executive assistant, which not only helps the vice chair, it also curates training so that if we're creating a bench, you create an assistant to the treasurer from the at-larges. You create an assistant to the vice chair for the at-larges. You make the at-larges responsible for getting actual working committees done. And then you hold them publicly responsible. And I don't mean responsibility as like punishment. That's, it's not punishment. It's just holding you responsible. What happened and why? Ask, why isn't anything get done? What were the barriers? And how can we work past them? Just and do it publicly. That's kind of my thing, is I have the ability to turn on this camera and talk to people. And I'm willing to do it. I'm willing to say things openly and freely and honestly without being toxic, without pointing and wagging the fingers at an individual and dehumanizing them. I can say, look, these are problems that we have to fix. But we can't change messaging, Jason, until we actually fix the structure that creates the messaging.
And only a party chair can do that.
No, only a team can do that.
Well, then the party chair will create the team, and then the team can do it.
Yeah. But regardless, for you to do that with a team, you're still going to need some kind of messaging platform within the team in order to make the team coherent. So, you're going to need to, in that leadership group, you're going to have to sort of figure out how to message to structure that team. And certainly it seems like you have some experience in doing that with these different communication structures. And, certainly there are tools that are also available to you if you were to hold that position that could also help you to sort of, I guess, whip the party together a little bit, maybe, so to speak, if we can get the eyeballs all in one place.
Yeah. And, long term, we have to make volunteers comfortable to volunteer, right? Long term. Short term, we have to get the activists to start thinking with a representative mindset. And then we have to create the conditions where volunteers feel comfortable volunteering, right? That's the second step. Because once you get volunteers volunteering, average people who aren't activists, people who just want to come in and help for a couple hours and go home, right? But if I can get them to help for an hour a month, I can move freaking mountains. But they have to feel comfortable, and they have to feel like they're not going to be left holding a bag of responsibility that they don't want. You want to come in, lick stamps, and fold Post-it notes or fold envelopes, stuff envelopes, or whatever it is they want to do. They don't want to be responsible for the whole big project. And so we have to create the organization and the structure that actually allows that to get done. But none of that's going to work as long as we're fighting with each other all the time. As long as we're fighting over how libertarian you are or how libertarian you're not. We're so freaking far away from it being from it actually mattering. It's pointless to have the goddamn argument. I'm tired of wasting the time and energy over arguing with the people who are politically closest to me, that they're not politically close enough to me. It's dumb. I should be spending that time and energy arguing with Democrats and Republicans that they're actually closer to me than they think. Not arguing with the people who are sitting right next to me politically. We're arguing with the people who are literally next to us. We spend so much time and energy arguing with the people sitting next to us that we don't spend it talking to human beings and the public.
Well, James, if somebody is listening to this and they're, and they're being reached by your message here, how would they participate? If they want to participate in this process, it's going to happen it's going to be on February 17th through the 19th in Sacramento. So I believe in order to at least come in the door, they have to become a dues paying member. So that means pay their, join the Libertarian Party. I believe it costs $25 a year. Is that
Well,
correct?
it's actually too late. If you weren't a member by 60 days, it's 60 or 90 days. I think they changed it to 60. It's too late, but there is still stuff you can do. You can contact your local organization or your local area representative, your northern area coordinator, your southern area coordinator, and send them a letter and tell them what you support. If you know someone who's going to convention, you can tell them to consider a different path. You can actually show up and observe if you're here in Sacramento. You don't have to, necessarily. You can pay your dues and not get to vote, but you can show up, if you want to do that. So you can still participate, but in order to vote or to nominate, you have to have been a member, dues paying member 60 days before convention.
And you can also pay to a little bit extra too to do some of the activities. They're going to have other things going on there, like we showed some of the speakers, as well as some different type of receptions and get-togethers, I guess.
And you can actually now have tickets to individual things, so you can go to an individual speaker. You don't have to buy a whole package now. So they've changed some of that.
Indeed. Well, guys, I think Tim got to get up early in the morning. So
yeah, let's let Tim go and let me go eat my dinner.
Let me just real quick final word, James. What would you like to leave the audience with as we head out the door here?
I will not be making a decision if I'm accepting a nomination until Thursday night. So if you want to talk to me about it, I'm the easiest person to get a hold of. Literally, my phone number is on my Facebook page. So that's okay. All I've got. You have an opportunity to talk me into or out of this nonsense of kind of.
Yeah. Well, by the way, if you're watching this, what we've shown you is some of the inner workings of how the Libertarian Party works, and they are an alternative out there where we've got a lot of ground to catch up with, but that's what we're trying to do, give you an alternative to the red and blue dichotomy that you can just look around and you can see the damage that's being done in the country, and we've really got to turn things around. So, yes. If you want to get involved, this is what it takes. So check it out. If you happen to be in Sacramento, check out your local party. We've been doing shows on this Knuckleheads of Liberty, trying to tell you, look, there are people getting elected in other states. There are local levels, most of them, but there are people trying to make a difference. They understand the value of liberty, and they're getting elected in their communities and trying to make a difference. And you can, we encourage you to keep watching. And as we interview these people, we're going to interview another guy on Monday who's from Pennsylvania, and he got elected to his township auditor, and he's going to try for township supervisor. But there's stories like that all over the place, and people waking up to liberty. They're trying to make a difference. And if, this is where you can go to get involved, try and figure out how you can become a part of the solution instead of.
I do want to point one something out. There is one thread that actually ties all those people together, Jason, is every person we've had here so far interviewing, they all have a representative mindset. Every single one who has been elected has had a representative mindset. They're politicians. Whether they like it or not, they're politicians. And that actually should be a message to our Libertarian Party friends out there.
Well, thanks so much, all of you, for joining us. Thank you all for joining, getting together tonight to run this show. And thank you, James, for talking and being there to represent us and trying to represent us within the party to make change. And we certainly hope for the best coming up in this convention with respect to, your progress within the party. So, but
you guys know, I'm still undecided. So that's...
Okay, well, thank you all, and until the next one, stay free.
Yes, indeed.
Good night.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.